Today we're gonna mix together whiskey, 1.5 lemons, and I'm squeezing all the juice that I can get out of this by hand. Then add in some simple syrup, and we're gonna mix that together really well. And there you have it. We have a Carnal Sour. Enjoy. Welcome to today's episode of Boozie Books. Today we're going to talk about Carnal Urges by J.T. Geissinger. I am not a romance girly. I love romantasy, but just plain romance is not for me. Dark romance, definitely not for me. I can never say never. You don't know what you don't know. And I'm here today to tell you that I just might be a dark romance girly. I was not expecting to be as taken away by this book as I was. I do not know if it's in bad taste to compare books, but I'm just your drunk bestie running my mouth, so I don't have a filter and I'm gonna make some bad choices. So Carnal Urges is what I wanted Twisted Love to be. Does that make sense? As I was reading Twisted Love, I was just like, I don't care that this is so childish. And I was like, oh, this is why you guys like this book. Okay, I get it. And then I was like, oh, that part's a little interesting. Then, damn, okay, I like this. But Carnal Urges, even though I saw some people saying, oh, it's predictable or whatever, I was really invested in the story. I was really interested. Oh, I'm pretty sure I know where this is gonna go, but I'm here for the ride, okay? I'm gonna enjoy this, even though I'm 90% sure that I know how it's gonna end. And I think that is just like good storytelling. And the other thing that I did, so I finished Carnal Urges, and then I was like, okay, I really like this book. I really, really like the spice. The spice did not give me an ick. The spice did not make me say, every time I was listening to the spice, I could literally see a guy saying this to me and me being like, But I was just like, trying to go back to Twisted Love, and I was just, I don't think the spice quite gave me that. I was so shocked by it because it was such a departure from the rest of the writing. And it was okay because I was so surprised by the spice in Twisted Love. I enjoyed it because I wasn't expecting it. So because of that, I was like, okay, let me go back and listen to the spicy chapter, like the very first spicy chapter, and let me see how I feel about it. Because for me, Carnal Urges was like up here. The spice was top tier for me, and maybe I just like a particular thing. I don't know. But I went back and listened to the spice and Twisted Love, and I was just like, no, some of the stuff is so cringe for me, and I was not getting the same feelings that I had when I first listen to it. And so after I listened to that spice, I needed to cleanse my palate. I needed to refresh from Carnal Urges. So I just went back to one of the spicy chapters and listened again. Yeah, this is it. This is how you do spice. This is how I want some of the people who are in the romantasy genre to do their spice, because it felt real. It felt like I was in the room either with them or participating. I don't know if that makes sense, but I was visualizing, felt real. It reminded me of my own experiences, so like I can get behind this. So in case you can't tell, I was into this book, the story, the spice. And honestly, I am on the second. So Carnal Urges is the second book. I didn't realize that it was like a series, but I think it's also standalone. Oh, it's totally fine. I didn't feel lost, no more than usual at least, or anything. But anyways, let's get into the story. Okay, so we have our girl Sloan. She gets kidnapped, but she's putting up a hell of a fight, or at least that's how it's told to us, before she gets knocked out, or she gets drugged and she's knocked out. When she comes to, she's talking all smack. Sloan is smart, witty, sharp tongue. I like her. I read some reviews where they were like, oh, she's kind of girl that she's smart and she knows that she's smart and it's annoying, but not to me. I love it. Yeah, let's use those big words that we found in the thesaurus in the dictionary, put them to use, and make people, especially men, feel small. So I was here for it. Anyways, when she comes to, she's on some private jet, and the guy that she sees is obviously handsome because we're in a romance novel. The first thing I want to talk about, you guys know how I feel about age gaps. You guys know that I fucking hate age gaps. There's one age gap that I didn't mind. I was okay.
He's 42, she's like 28. Kind of my rule of thumb, once you're older than 27, whatever the age gap is, go for it. You know, like 27 and up. So she's 28, right? He's 42. It's a big gap, but it didn't matter as much to me. Maybe I'm biased on this, but I was just like, okay, that's an acceptable age gap. So they're on this plane and they're going from New York to Boston. And then when they land in Boston, they're like going to his house. But as they're going to his house, they're ambushed or fired on. And so he's MS-13. And I was kind of confused because it was like, is it a rescue mission or is it like an extermination? I don't know. But as they're getting shot up, Declan, he's the guy who kidnapped Sloan. Declan's like, oh, your people are trying to do the rescue mission. But at some point, he said that it wasn't a rescue mission, that she could have died. And so I'm just trying to figure out why was she kidnapped. They accused her of starting some war. And later in the book, they explain it, but I was like, this is so dumb. I'm not here for logic. I'm literally here for spice. It doesn't have to make sense, but apparently she was like on a date with some Russian guy who's like part of Russian mafia or the Russian mob. I don't know what they call themselves. And I think some guy slapped her ass and some people got shot. And that's why they blame her for starting a gang war, which is literally so dumb. Why not blame the people who slapped her on the ass? Anyway, so they get to her, they get to Declan's house, and she's being really nice to all the guards. And at first I was like, oh, is she gonna be some femme fatale? And she's gonna be really nice, getting their chest, and then she's gonna kill them all, because that would be cool. But that's not what happens. She's just a quirky, nice girl, which, I mean, I won't say nice. Quirky, friendly. Quirky and friendly. So she's there at his house and like they experience some things and I think she blacks out. And when she blacks out, they take her to the hospital and they find out she has a brain contusion, a brain bleed, something's going on with her head. So they take her to the hospital and they end up doing some tests and then they're like, oh, you're pregnant. And when he finds out that she's pregnant, he is all squirrely. He's weird. So he wants her to go back to her baby's father because apparently he's a gangster but a family man. And she's just, this is so weird. I should not be pregnant. And she gets a bunch of other tests done. Finds out that she's not pregnant, but he doesn't know that. And so I skipped through all the part that makes it make sense of why he's being nice to her, even though he kidnapped her. But dang, did they have sex? I don't know. I'm skipping on the spicy parts because like, it's spice. We know what it is. Anyway, so they get close and she knows that he likes her and she likes him. So anyway, so he's like, hey, I'm gonna let you go. Like I made a promise. Like I'm gonna let you go because you're pregnant. Or literally it was because he trusted her or something. I'm gonna give you a choice. You can stay or you can go. Some kind of exchange. And while they're doing the exchange, where you know she is the prize that's being exchanged, she says something to him. Oh, you're so dumb. You're so blind. And then she goes and leaves with her Russian ex-boyfriend. And then they are getting on the plane, but old buddy Declan shows up with a bazooki. No, that is a pie, a bazooki, a bazooka. Whatever that big RPG rocket launcher thing. Anyways, he shows up at the flight line with that. She gets off the plane, she goes to him, and he was like, I found out that you're not pregnant, so you're coming back with me. And so they go back together, and then they leave and go somewhere like Martha's Vineyard, and then they're there. She's still talking to the guard, being friends with them, but Declan was like, they don't need to talk to you, and then they do, and then he finds out because they're playing spades? No. Poker? Yeah. He finds out because they're playing poker, and then he's like, whoa, every guy here has to cut their pinky off because I gave them a direct order and they weren't listening, so they had to pay the price. And Sloan was absolutely not. I'll pay the price. And then she tries to cut off her pinky, but Declan stops her. And honestly, I think he should have let her get her pinky cut off, because what better way to learn a lesson than actual physical harm, right? So obviously she doesn't get her pinky cut off. And so they're at the beach, the house is on the beach, and she's on the beach walking, and then she just hears some noises or something, and people shouting, and the next thing she knows, some men from a submarine, like, coming out of the water, and they snatch her, and apparently she puts up a hell of a fight again. We love a girl who's all about her self-defense. So she gets knocked out again. She comes to. she's like talking to some people. They're asking her all these questions about Declan, and to her credit, baby girl's like, I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. This is some bullshit. Let me go. Then they show her pictures. She's like, that ain't me. It wasn't me. And I saw you on the floor. Da 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 da. It wasn't me. No, I was like, girl. Lesson learned though. If someone ever comes to me with photographic evidence, video evidence, I'm gonna, that wasn't me. Unless you caught me in the act, no, that's not me. Deny, 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 and deny some more. You guys, I just realized that I am not wearing my mic. Let me check this out. Okay, so Sloan was kicking ass and taking names. She acted like she didn't know who the fuck Declan was. And then they put her in a holding cell for 3 days with like no food, no water, no nothing. Hashtag torture. Then Declan shows up because she's being released. And this whole thing was, oh, we had to vet her because clearly you like her and you want her to be a part of whatever you're doing. So we had to test her. Well, the guy who was testing her was apparently really impressed with her, not ratting him out, not even acting like she knew him. So then he was, you're actually going to work for us, and us is the NSA, I think, or CIA. I think it's NSA. But you need to like, break up with Declan, but like, don't try to be smart because we'll know we're listening. So don't try to outsmart this girl. And she literally did just that. She said she has to break up with him. But then she's like, it's just this quote that you told me. And he was like, that's not the quote. And she knows that's not the quote. And then she started doing some hand signals. Anyway, so Declan figures it out that they're trying to use her against him. So you gotta go. I'm gonna send you to your girl. Oh, so her girl is the girlfriend of the main boss of the Russian mafia. I don't know. How are you and your BFF both girlfriends of bosses, rival gangs? It doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, so he releases her to them. And then it's a couple of days, and next thing you know, she's watching the news. And I guess the guy who told her to break up with him was dead. And then Declan shows up, and he's like, we're leaving, you're coming with me. And I feel like that's the end of the story. I think they talk about marriage or something. And then there's an epilogue that I didn't care about. And that's it. I didn't talk about the spice, but the spice was like the most important part. But I did talk about the spice at the beginning. I just love that it wasn't cringe. I just love that it felt like things like men would actually say. You could not tell me that the things that Declan said to Sloan were not things that JT actually heard herself. And this is written by someone who knows exactly what this is like. I feel it. I really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the pacing. It wasn't too deep. The banter between Sloan and Declan I found entertaining. It wasn't my favorite, but it was still really decent. I'm definitely going to read the other books. A lot of people said that they found Sloan annoying, so I'm interested to see what the other books are like. So I'm honestly looking forward to this. I think I already have another book on hold. So you'll be getting another ecstatic review from me. So, or I hope so. If this book is anything like the other ones, easy review, you guys. I don't know what else to say. I'm just thinking you guys need to take a page out of JT's book. The spice was spicing, and not just because it was spicy, but because it was not cringe, which is, I feel like at this point in my life, that's what I want. I don't want nasty, raunchy sex just because. I want it to feel real. Sloan girl, I wish it was me. I wish that was me. Did I just discover a new kink? So I'm gonna give this book 4 leaf clovers because Declan's Irish, which, because I listened to this book, the voice actor is, I think, the same voice actor for maybe Dante in the Dark Fae series. I've heard his voice before, so it was just funny every time he randomly switched to the Irish accent. I was like, oh, that's right, you're supposed to be Irish. So anyways, 4 leaf clovers for this one. So let's get these shots out of the way. All right, now that we got that out of the way, let me know if you read the book and let me know what you think. Is the spice just right for you, or did you find it a little bit too much? Let me know in the comments. Join me again next time as we talk about books worth sipping over.